This is strange. It's like getting a delay for me, T-Shroom. I don't know what's happening here. Can people see me just yet? I think there was a little bit of a delay or maybe sound in the background. That was strange, a little strange. What's going on, everybody? This is the Investing Bros. How you doing this morning? It is Tuesday, July 18th, and we got a great show lined up for you guys today. Bill Noble will be joining the show this morning. We're talking about Bitcoin. We're talking about altcoins. Is it altcoin season now? When is that going to happen? Is this actually the bull market? Make sure you don't go anywhere and stick around for the entire video because we will be answering that question. But while you are here, go ahead and smash that like button. And if you're new here, go ahead and subscribe to the channel for everything in the crypto and stocks world. We do the TA, we do the news. We have the great hard-hitting conversation so you can decide for yourself how you want to invest and further your financial freedom. With that said, I am joined today by a fantastic, amazing co-host, Mr. T-Shroom, the Florida man. T-Shroom, how are you doing, and how is running board today in production?
Oh, well, so far it's flawless, Tim. I'm loving it, and everybody in the chat agrees that everything's gone perfect so far. So I'm really happy about that, and I've got to admit, because of how well things are going, I'm feeling better than I deserve. So that's really good. That's really good. We've got a great guest on today, and we're going to have a ton of fun. But let's go over to my screen because I've got a quote of the day for us here from none other than Warren Buffett. He said, "The stock market is designed to transfer money from the active to the patient." And boy, for those of us who maybe lost money recently in some crazy movement to the upside, maybe you were a little more active than you should have been patient. And maybe we learned a lesson. But that's our quote of the day. Tim, do you have a thought of the day?
Yeah, we're going to change up things a little bit. You know, Michael Scott, he's going to take a break. Guys, we're not going to do a Michael Scott quote of the day for now. But instead, we're going to do the thought of the day brought to you by Dwight Schrute. And today's thought of the day, go ahead and share my screen here, T-Shroom. This is actually very applicable in the trading crypto markets. In the wild, there is no healthcare. In the wild, healthcare is, ow, I hurt my leg. I can't run. A lion eats me, and I'm dead. Well, I'm not dead. I'm the lion. You're dead. That is brought to you guys by Dwight Schrute. Are you the lion or are you dead? That's my question to all of you guys in chat when it comes to trading. Let me know in the comments down below. What are you in this scenario? T-Shroom, what do you think of the thought of the day from old Dwight Schrute?
I am the lion. I actually do try to tell this to young people. It's kind of reminiscent of. I know that Dwight was, being maybe not the smartest with that quote, but it is a little reminiscent of Jordan Peterson, a little Petersonian, if you will, because you so often with Gen Z, they're very timid and they're not super sure of themselves. Sometimes, not all of them, but what I try to encourage them is picture yourself as the one going out and getting things, not the one that the world is happening to. You're the one influencing the world. You are the lion. You are going out and hunting. You are not being hunted. And that seems to click in their brains a little bit. And it definitely applies to trading. So it's a great quote, Tim.
Yeah.
From Dwight.
It's not a quote. It's a thought of the day.
It's a thought, right? And I misspoke on that, and I apologize profusely.
And you can pay your penance later, and we'll talk after the show about what that means. But guys, in case you did not get to watch yesterday, we are not joined this morning by Army Piper. He's actually going to be taking a little bit of a leave. Doing some stuff with family. It's time for him to do some stuff with family while he can. He will be back. I actually had someone reach out yesterday. Really funny. Piper, I think, is in chat, so he's gonna get a laugh out of this. They literally asked, they're like, "Hey, is everything okay behind the scenes? Like, are you guys and Piper good? Like, is there a reason he's leaving?" I'm like, "Yes, like we're fine. Like he has family things he needs to do. There is no drama behind the scenes. Piper was not kicked off the show. In fact, we're all very sad he's gone, but we're also very happy for him in the sense of he has things he needs to do, and him stepping away from the show and stepping away from some obligations here for a while are going to enable him to do what he needs to do. And for that, I am happy for him. Sad to see him go, but happy for him that he's doing what he needs to do. But it's good to see him in chat from time to time. So shout out to Army Piper. He will be back stronger than ever. We just don't know when. So make sure, if for no one else, smash that like button for Piper this morning. Subscribe for Piper. He will be back. Let's go ahead, though, before we jump into crypto stuff. And again, we got Bill Noble on the show, of course, one of the great crypto minds here. He's going to be doing the TA for us this morning and getting into a little bit of that conversation about altcoins and what that is going to look like here in the future. Let's start off with our traditional reading of the names here in chat. And it looks like to me the first commenter of the day was Mr. Crypto Pew Pew Cruz. And I'm going to read his comment here. He says, when the pain becomes greater than the fear of change, it is then we become willing. Love, let others voluntarily evolve. Pew Pew. Love it so much. There we go, Pew Pew Cruz. You had a second thought of the day from Crypto Pew Pew Cruz.
That was really good. I like that.
A new segment.
It's
Thank
true.
you so much there. Yeah,
it's true.
It is very true.
It's actually something that just to cut in here a second. There was a thought for this one, which is there's actually a UF professor who teaches about that, which is a political concept where the electorate will not actually change their view towards the reigning establishment government, the current regime, until they feel enough pain. So there's a lot of politicians that will measure pain in the population. Inflation is one of those pain points. And until it reaches a certain threshold, you can get away with whatever you're doing as a politician. So it's absolutely true. Absolutely true. Great quote on my screen.
Great quote on the screen. All right, we're going to move on here. OBC is also here this morning. Mr. J is here with that green name. Crypto Mini Bike with the green name. Eric Wallen with the green name. Guys, there's a lot of green names. I'm going to have to stop saying it. That's going to be too much. That's going to be too much for me to say. ADA Ace is here this morning. Justin Eubanks, Mike Play. Oh, here we go. Everyone's favorite hater. And I, say what you will. I love seeing him in here, and he's becoming one of the most biggest contributors in the comment section, Mr. Jack Mehofer with the Crypto Boars. So shout out to Jack. Love having you here.
Sounds
Get
German.
Your pajamas. Get your pajamas. Get your nighttime tea, Jack, because I guess this is when you go to bed. So glad to have you. Remington Peralt is here. Curtis Rorick is here. Bedridden with the Blue Wrench is here. Loco for Crypto. I haven't read that name, so welcome. Maybe you've been in chat here, but I don't know if I've gotten to read your name before. Loco for Crypto, unless you change your name, that's a possibility. Very much so, but good to see you here. Ooh, Shannon Sharp too with the Blue Wrench. Haven't got to read her name in a while. Gia S, Nancy Croy. Speaking of crypto women, just got a trio of them right there in a row. That is awesome. Of course, Army Piper with the Blue Wrench. T Shroom with the Blue Wrench. Mike Volmer. Let's get like 5 more, and then we're gonna move on here. Crypto Ben Franklin, everyone's favorite non-president. Cryptex with the Blue Wrench. Peter Prevost, Ninja Glock. Kid Co-MN, and the last one I'm going to read, and I don't know if that was actually 5 because I'm not good at counting. Al Bundles, Crypto Trappa. What is going on, everybody? Guys, I know there's a lot of names in chat that I did not read, and it is not because I don't love you. It's because it's time to go ahead and move on into the show. And traditionally at this point, I'm throwing it over to Piper to do the economic outlook, but this morning I'm going to have to bring it to you guys. Maybe in the future we'll have T-shirt. We'll play around with this now that we're kind of sorting up some duties here. But let's go ahead and go to my screen here, T-Shroom. Just run through some things you guys should be aware of today. Actually, this came out already. Is this updated? Let me go ahead and refresh my page here. Okay, so we had, this is actually low. This is not good. Is crypto potentially dropping already? Retail sales month over month previously was at 0.5%. Consensus was 0.5%. Forecast was 0.3%. Actual just came in at 0.2. I could be wrong. Now, I could be wrong. Piper, correct me in chat. T-Shroom, correct me in voice. But this is something we actually do want to go to the upside. Correct, T-Shroom?
Correct. Yeah, this is bearish. Yeah. Bearish print. This
is bearish. Now, how much this will affect crypto, I'm not 100% certain, but it is something that will have effects on the stock market for sure. So this is a bearish start to the morning. That just came out. Looking forward to tomorrow, our British friends across the pond, they will get their inflation rate year over year printed tomorrow. That will come out our time at 2 a.m. So we'll talk about it on the show, guys, but we ain't going to be awake and live for that one. Previously, they were at 8.7. Consensus is at 8.2. They're forecasted 8.3. So we should be seeing inflation of the British pound come down. Let me know if you are from England, if you're from the UK, and you guys are excited about that. I guess UK we're just talking about I don't know. Great Britain is what it says. GB. Does that include the UK or is that just England?
It's that is an age-old question, but
Good.
it is accurate to say that Great Britain and the UK, they're used synonymously, especially when you're talking about the economy.
It's good to know. Good to know. You guys see that show Ted Lasso? I'm in 100% agreement with him. How many countries are within this country? Is a question I ask myself daily about the UK. But we're going to keep moving on here. Coming back over to the United States tomorrow at 8:30, we will get building permits. It does look like they should be going down. Say what you will about good or bad thing. I think it would suffice, and I think Jerome Powell wants us to see this go down. Previous was 1.496 million. The consensus at 1.49, forecast 1.462. So we are expected to see less and less permits going. That should be a good thing for getting Jerome Powell to say we don't need to keep raising rates. As long as they keep building more houses, he might be saying the economy is not where we need it to be. Then, of course, this Friday, we're moving on to Friday, there will become retail sales for Great Britain. So, again, it's forecast to be lower. This is not great. We want that to go higher. Previous was 0.3. Consensus at this point is 0.2. Forecasted at 0.1. So it looks like we could see some pain in those today. That's our economic outlook for right now. Let's move over to our liquidations here. And I'm going to zoom in here just a little bit. So as we learned here the other day, again, I would advise CoinGlass. Listen, I charge super cheap fees. Let me give you some advice. Do not put bad news in green and good news in red. That doesn't make sense to me. But you guys can see it's not really that significant. We're at $1.31 million of long liquidations here on Bitcoin. I cannot stress to you guys how unimportant that is. Like, that is not significant whatsoever. Arbitrum is it? Arbitrum, but it's 7.6. It didn't even make it to a million. Others, not even a million. ETH, not even a million. XRP actually liquidated some shorts again, but only 527,000. Like, just not a very significant day in liquidations, which is another sign, guys, as we're consolidating here, that I do think a big breakout is coming. So the question is still, to the upside, to the downside. We'll get Bill to answer that question because we've talked about it here for a while. Moving over into Trueflation, we're sitting at 2.25. It's once again up 0.01%. So inflation with very minimal rises here recently. That kind of leads us over into the CME futures. It's kind of a lock at this point, guys. We are going to see, we've said it's a lock, but it's even more of a lock. Every single day is further confirmation. We technically still have 8 days until it, but 97% of the CME futures predictors are saying we're going to get that 25 basis point rate hike. And of course, as we said yesterday, that looks like at this point, that's all they're predicting. Jerome Powell continues to say 2 more rate hikes, but the CME futures predicting 1 more. And then in March, we will be cutting back down, starting the first pivot back down to 5 to 525. Once again, this is going to become a new spiel. Why are we covering this? Because the markets move with expectation of what the next couple of months will be. So even though Jerome Powell is saying 2 more rate hikes in 2 years before a cut, the fact that CME Futures is predicting only 1 more and then a cut in March, the markets will move based off that information. If that changes, if the CME Futures predictors begin to believe Jerome Powell that we will have 2 more rate hikes and wait 2 years for a cut, watch that heavily affect the markets. That's why it's so important to kind of stay here every single day and look at what are CME futures predictors saying today. Are they changing their mind? Are they continuing with it? Last one we have here for our kind of economic outlook, that is, of course, our Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index. Let me update this, yes, because it did go up a tick to 56, despite the fact that we're back down below 30,000 as we speak. We actually touched this morning back down to 29.7. A lot of you guys know who have been sticking with us for TA, that is just a support level. No reason to freak out. Even though 30,000 is a psychological level, technically our flat level support we've been in back since late June has kept us right there around 29.7, 29.8 region. So don't freak out just yet. We are back in the greed, but again, I've told you guys what I'm looking for this summer. I do believe we might see the Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index tick up closer towards mid to higher 80s, maybe even lower 90s. And then that will be the sign that I think that this pre-bull market rally is over and it's time to take some profits and hunker down and wait for some good cheap prices to come back. Of course, today, once again, we're brought to you guys by iTrust Capital here on the Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index. Buy and sell cryptocurrencies. Lovely. Ethereum, Solana, Polkadot. Why would they stick with Solana and Polkadot being in the top? I don't know why.
Get with the times, Tim.
Doesn't seem like two of the ones that people would be most interested in putting into their Roth IRA. But that's just me. That's just me. It is time to go ahead and transition over into charts. Let's go back to BroCam for just a second here, T-Shroom. We are joined by a very special guest this morning, Mr. Bill Noble. He's going to be doing the TA for us today and helping with the conversation of when is the altcoin season starting. But first of all, Bill, how are you doing this morning? How is Texas? We got our Texas replacement this morning, standing in for Army Piper.
Gentlemen, good morning. Texas is an interesting place to be. It's so hot that at peak heat, internet melts.
Wow.
Like, it slows down. Everything slows down. So we're at 104 or 5 degrees, but don't worry. We're Texas. We can take it.
Nice. Is that real? Does the internet actually slow down? Is that hyperbole?
Yeah. No, I'm changing my stream time.
That's crazy.
Like yesterday it slowed to an outage. Like,
I didn't know that was a thing. That's potentially a very big risk for a lot of stuff.
I mean, I'm a technical analyst, so maybe I accidentally found a spurious relationship. But if my 2:00 Eastern time stream buffers and then internet goes out at the same time, anyway, it's hot as hell.
Yeah, no, I mean, we had that. We talked with, obviously Piper lets us know. He's over in El Paso, so he talks about how hot it is over there. We had Chris Inks, and Chris Inks is from Dallas, T-Shroom?
Something like that, yeah.
I think he's in Dallas, and of course, Bill, you're over there in Austin, close to Austin. Listen, Texas has some favorable laws. I said it before, I'll say it again. From a law standpoint, and through the months between December and March, I feel like Texas is a beautiful place. Outside of that, I don't think I could stand the heat. You guys literally live on the surface of the sun. I was out there in Austin in May last year, and I felt like it was worse than Florida in August. And so it's definitely no joke whatsoever. But we're not here to talk about Texas, as great as Texas is. We are here to talk about some crypto. And Bill, let's start off before we jump into maybe our biggest conversation of the day about altcoins and altcoin season and the bull market. Let's just start off. Bitcoin is down this morning. What are you seeing on the charts? And I actually even want to lead you maybe on another chart. Traditionally, when we see the Dixie drop as significantly as we've seen the Dixie drop here recently, we usually see a boost in Bitcoin's price. But weirdly, we're not seeing Bitcoin climb. We actually are seeing Bitcoin move sideways and slightly down as the Dixie continues to set new yearly lows. What are your thoughts about that? What are you seeing on the Bitcoin charts? And maybe forecast us what the future could look like over the next couple of weeks.
All right, I'd be happy to. So the first thing we want to note is that Bitcoin should be going up, right? I mean, the dollar index is broken. Frankly, as far as I'm concerned, like a slow rolling currency crisis has started both here and in Europe with fiat currencies. I can go more into that later. The point is, Bitcoin should be going up, but it actually ran into a brick wall here, and this DeMark system, it's like the original quant TA in effect. So when you have a set of conditions, like the low is lower than the low 4 days ago, okay, that bar will get a number, a 1. And then normally it'll trend, say, from 1 to 9 if a trend is developing, right? So when I'm looking at this Bitcoin chart, I'm like, hey, and it could be 4 more down days here. And that seems weird because, when XRP won the legal case, it was like singing the Alleluia chorus in the Cathedral of Crypto, right? If you go to a 4-hour chart of Bitcoin, okay, if it'll come up, it won't come up. So we'll go over
look
here.
At that heat.
Right, I'm telling you. Okay, you have something else going on, which, I dabble in GAN, right?
Nice.
The new moon was last night. New moons can bring in kind of a destructive energy sometimes. People's view on these things varies, but you do have a new moon, you do have a slump, and even if you don't believe in the new moon, it creeps me out a little bit that when you had the FTX top, okay, you had this formation where you sat, you spiked up, and then it went straight down. right? If you zoom in over here, you sat, you spiked up, and now it's going down. And here's the creepy part. We don't know why. We don't, right? Like, okay. So uncertainty is the poison of markets, right? It's like, it's like drinking Drano for the market. When nobody knows what's going on, right? That's when people get the most upset. Now, how are you going to, sort of navigate this? So this is a 4-hour Bitcoin chart. Okay. As you can see on this case, you've reached that 9, I call it the 9 top or the 9 bottom. Now, when you see this, to keep it simple, you don't want to see a failed rally. So if it's going down, theory says there should be a rally back up. And if that rally fails, then the trend is going to continue. So let's review what we know. Dollar's going down. Dollar's broken. Bitcoin is also going down, which is strange. It means somebody selling it, could be Uncle Sam. You could have 4 to 5 more down days. And if you have a failed rally, those 4 to 5 down days could be a bit nasty. Now, so if that's what's going on in Bitcoin, right, you have to take it 2 ways. Obviously, what's going to happen to altcoins? And the answer to that is, what is Mr. Powell going to say when he steps up to the microphone? Yep. I'll give you my guess, but I don't know how long you want me to go. If you just want me to, take a break there, I can
go for it. Yeah. What do you think? What's he going to say?
Okay. Well, take S&P, right? In other words, frequently when we look at data, we look at economic data, right? And I'm going to draw something from an old school technical analyst called Rick Ackerman. He does something called hidden pivot analysis, right? And in this hidden pivot analysis, you should have a top in S&P at 45.45. Ironically, 2 Gann numbers. Now, Jerome Powell wants to bring inflation down from 4% to 2%. So I know we look at data versus expectations. We look at a wide range of data. But guess what? The only data that matters for wealth creation, wealth effect, leverage, whether or not somebody's going to pay $10 a pound for steak or 14, is the stock market. So we're rallying speculative assets in Jerome Powell's face. And Jerome Powell is looking at something that says Fed futures think he's going to be cutting rates in March when he can't get inflation to budge below 4%. Now, it's not 8%, so that's good. But they have made themselves perfectly clear. And here's what's not perfectly clear. They're clear they wanted it 2%, right? But they're also afraid that if they stop tightening too early, that inflation can just start running and get out of control. It's actually happened to Paul Volcker back in the day. Okay, so think about it. Okay, the market expects 25 basis points. There are certain things in the economy pointing to weakness. You can't go beyond 25. Okay, but what you can do is you can get up to the microphone and say, you know what, people, knock it off. Greenspan and the ECB did this in 2000 at the top of the internet stock bubble. Okay, they can get on the tape and tell the market to knock it off. Now, let's bring that back to the beginning. Why is Bitcoin going down? Because crypto is the smartest, fastest market because, like crypto is like, can't get afford to get eaten by the dinosaur. It's not supported by the Fed or the banking system. So if crypto smells trouble, either with risk assets, interest rates, Jerome Powell, whatever, we don't know. You gotta be mindful of crypto going lower in front of Powell. Now, I know you came for alt season, right? Everyone wants alt season. People are really pumped up about what went on in XRP for obvious reasons, right? So if you go to the XRP chart, what have we got? Well, we have this huge giant spike up, obviously, right? And then people are probably wondering, why is XRP not at $2? Now, our work suggests XRP could go to $2 over time. but it's not going there right now. My sense is, with the way these things work, the ultimate litmus test of a rally is, can you buy a dip and make money? So could this dip to the 50% retracement near 70 cents have been it? Yeah, it could be, right? And I don't think anybody's going to sell XRP because, as Ripple notified you yesterday, XRP is going to be both a payment system and money. Now, does this trigger alt season? No. And here's why. In the beginning stages of a Bitcoin bull market, remember, we're doing a fiat currency crisis that then triggers a crypto bull market. Alts normally can't hold a bid. They can't hold a bid versus Bitcoin for very long. They can't. In other words, Bitcoin always winds up winning. So even if you think we are in a bull market, if you go back and look at past bull markets, Bitcoin is king in the beginning, right? And if you look at this new moon thing with total 3, you can see this new moon creating inflection points everywhere. So it's not a back-tested top. It's something to pay attention to, right? Especially if you look at things like ETH versus Bitcoin. So are we in a crypto bull market? Yes. Is that incredibly difficult to trade? Yes. Like, everybody thinks the bull market is, we go to Bitcoin Miami and we buy it on Monday or buy it on Wednesday before we leave, and everything goes up, and then we come back and our Lambo's parked in the driveway. That is not how bull markets work. Bull markets will shake you out. It'll make you think it's still the bear market, especially in the beginning. Like, if you look at ETH versus Bitcoin, we can't get going here, right? I mean, ETH just can't outperform Bitcoin on a sustained basis. Do I think it could? Yes, especially if gold goes up. ETH follows precious metals. But people, everyone's like, XRP case, alt season. No. Alt season comes after you get like an absurd rally in Bitcoin where capital just has to flow over into alts. So final note, right? When you have a Fed on a warpath, even if they're just hiking rates, altcoins and speculative assets require money to be flowing into them consistently in order to maintain prices, right? But if you have interruptions in that money flow, you have Fed tightening, you have people get spooked. All it takes is for a slowdown in the amount of money coming in to everything that makes up total 3 for altcoins to just go, right? So, stick with Bitcoin. It's not a bull market until you can buy a dip and make money, right? And, that will get you through, right? And don't underestimate, there's this saying, everyone uses it, and I think we need to bring it back. Don't fight the Fed. Don't fight the Fed, right? Because he's not going to be happy about the stock market. And the stock market actually makes me a little nervous. Like, it's making me nervous now. So, I don't know how much of that made sense. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, question for you here, Bill, because that was all like really, really good. I want to kind of backtrack just a little bit here. Let's go back to Jerome Powell. Something we talk about pretty much every day here. Jerome Powell has made the prediction at this point that we're going to get 2 more rate hikes. So we're going to end up getting up to 5.75 to 6 on the interest rate. CME Futures is saying that that's not going to happen. He's also said it's going to be over 2 years before we get our first pivot, our first rate cut. We're talking about 2025 before he thinks he's going to cut rates. What are your thoughts about that? Do you think that is him a little bit gesturing, him trying to continue to FUD markets because he doesn't like certain data points? Do you think he's being dead serious? Do you expect that to be true? What is your thoughts about, I think everyone's in agreement. We're going to see 25 basis points again here in about a week. But after that, when we start looking forward to the fall, we look into next year, do you see another rate hike coming up to that almost 6%? Or do you think that that is a bluff and we are probably going to get a rate cut somewhere in the next 7-8 months?
All right. So let's talk about tightening, right? Powell has talked about 2 more rate hikes. He's definitely going to do 1 more. I think he has to continue to raise rates to stay on message Because if he comes off message and say, oh, well, I paused, then I hiked, then I paused, and people are going to be like, either I don't understand the message or there's something wrong. Okay. And that brings me to how this works, right? The Fed's going to hike rates because equities are going up, right? I mean, yes, there are all kinds of things. There are all cracks in the system, right? Like subprime auto loans, can people even get loans? Was on Bloomberg yesterday. Yeah. He doesn't care about that if everybody can still borrow money against Tesla and Nvidia on the way up. So how does Jerome Powell cut rates? Why would he cut rates? He's not going to go, retail sales seem a little slumpy to me. Target earnings came in a little weak. I think we'll cut rates today. No, because rates have been artificially low for 10 years, and this guy is probably losing sleep about his ability to control inflation. What brings in a rate cut? It's as simple as this, a black swan, right? In other words, Jerome Powell would actually love a world where S&P goes down 40%, right? Inflation gets crushed, and then he can come in with rate cuts and QE and all that stuff, right? He knows that mostly works, right? So if you go back into this and say, especially in 87, there's a lot of 87, 29 parallels around in Gann and seasonal work. Greenspan was hiking rates, bonds were falling, rates were rising right before the stock market started to crack at the end of August and even into October. So, everyone's like, oh, we're going to get a rate cut? I was like, oh, okay, well, do you want to be in a world where Jerome Powell all of a sudden has to go, oh, God, we got to cut rates? Right? I mean, people got to start asking themselves. I mean, I know that the CME futures, now, to be fair, I get what the CME futures are thinking. They're thinking that something can go on between now and say March. I would say it's the solar eclipse in October. The solar eclipse came right before that FTX calamity. There's a lot of people who are into that had to call. Solar eclipses are major events for moving human behavior and markets. So the CME futures are like, okay, you probably have in October, you have Rectember and Rocktober, and then that gives Powell the room to be able to cut rates. But again, if there's going to be a disturbance in equities, junk bonds, banks, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's $100 oil because there's a problem in the Middle East. I have my theories as an analyst.
Yeah.
Jerome Powell would love to have an excuse to cut rates because that means, capital markets have adjusted and the biggest risk is no longer inflation.
Let me ask you this. So obviously the definition of a black swan event is something that supposedly can't be predicted. There were people who saw the pandemic, the C word coming, not a majority of us, but at this point, you can't predict black swan events, or otherwise they're not black swan events. But I would ask you, Bill, what do you think is the most likely of a black swan event that could come in? Do you think it would be another pandemic? I've heard rumblings from conspiracy theorists that there's another pandemic in the works. Is it a collapse of the economy? And even though a lot of people think the economy is going to have some sort of downfall, it would probably be black swan if it gets to a certain level of severity. Or do you think there's something else potentially that could swoop in as a black swan-esque event that would bring those rate cuts? Because I actually agree with you. That makes a lot of sense that Jerome Powell, he's talking tough, but yes, he would love to bring rate cuts. He just needs to have a good reason why. To you, and of course, there's no way that you can predict this perfectly, but what would make the most sense to you as a black swan event that leads to a pivot in the interest rates hikes?
Okay, an excellent question, and I'm so glad that the investing bros are asking it because no one else is. So this speaks to what's in the press and what's really happening. So, I've got a little fledgling group called Unhinged Crypto where we're doing some things way outside the box. And one of the things that, we came up with is that, you look at the headlines every day. It's the Ukraine. it's China, Taiwan. And if you see it in the headlines every day, it's not a black swan. It's not going to shock the market unless something absurd happens. However, the United States, this has been documented, RFK talked about it. We called up 3,000 reserves. Why? We don't know. Again, uncertainty. Now, if you look at the chart of oil, just to do some common sense, let's just throw up a trading view regression channel on this. Crude oil went to the top of the channel, right? And then, this was 2022 at 120. And then now it comes back down to 70 something. Joe Biden continues to drain the strategic petroleum reserve. It's not Joe Biden, U.S. government, right? U.S. government's like, oh, no hurry to buy oil. If anything, we can keep letting it out there. No hurry. Well, why is that? Well, because there may be a ton of oil sitting out there. Saudi Arabia, Iran, they may be sitting on more oil than they could ever sell. But oil, as things stand right now, you might wake up one day and oil could be at 50 based on, I don't know, current supply demand dynamics. Now, if that's what the reality may be, what's the surprise? Well, I don't know. Let's say you were a bad actor in the Middle East. I don't know who it is, right? But let's say it's a bad actor. I mean, we're sending F-16 jets to Iran because there's conflict in like getting oil out. So what happens if there's a major disruption in the supply of oil in the Middle East based on some sort of conflict that is currently not in the headlines? Like, what happens if you wake up with S&P where it is, Jerome Powell does a couple rate hikes, and you wake up to $100 oil? Right? In other words, if you want to talk about the thing that no one's talking about, what happens if, you got oil at $100? Or you've even got something more wacky, which is the fact that, gold people always say the gold's market artificially suppressed, and every gold bar at the Fed has 3 owners. What happens if that pops out, right? So if you look at oil and you look at gold, or you look at the dollar, right? These things are they're telling you something. Now, am I right? Could I be right? How about this? I could be wrong, and stocks, bonds, and fiat currencies don't currently reflect reality. They don't. Okay? So what's the only way to reflect reality? Well, it's to have crypto indiscriminately moon. So there's a black swan, that's oil, and then there's a white swan, which is the only market that can reflect reality, is crypto. Now, I think we would all prefer number 2, right? To have Bitcoin. Just say, okay, you know what? The real price of Bitcoin is $60K, and we'll start there, and then we'll go from there. That's what I would love to have happen. But if you're talking about a black swan, it could be commodities, weather, etc.
Wow.
Yeah. I think that in the 70s and the 80s, both of those recessions were due to unrest in the Middle East that led to a spike in oil prices that the United States economy couldn't absorb fast enough, and then inflation started to shoot up. But then into the 90s and in the 2000s, it was housing crises that led to the recessions. So you're thinking we may have like a throwback potential black swan rather than a return to some of the real estate worries, because there are some worries in the corporate real estate space. I think that, in my prediction, because it's actually come out of Jerome Powell's mouth several times, is that corporate real estate, even though everybody knows it's a bubble, and I don't think it would necessarily be a black swan because everybody's tracking it, I think that there's enough structural risk there to where if it did start to slip and pick up momentum to the downside, that you could see some banks that are overexposed to corporate real estate capitulate. And maybe they'd get bought by Goldman Sachs or the next highest bidder, not Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan. But if you're asking about a black swan-esque or a big kind of liquidity crunch or some kind of economic event, I think that is the corporate real estate narrative. But oil absolutely could also be in the cards as well. The Saudis predicted a couple months ago the Saudi finance minister, I believe, predicted that oil was going to have a big move to the upside. Now, he's not the only one in control. U.S. has a lot of leverage these days in oil prices, but, the Saudis do too.
Right. Well, the Saudis made all this bluster about don't be short oil, and oil traders shorted it in his face, and it collapsed. And that's when I started to get a little worried. Because remember how these regimes, they basically use oil revenue as a giant welfare system to keep an angry population in check. As far as real estate, oil, the 70s, the 90s, the 2000s. Gentlemen, how about D, all of the above, all at once?
Yeah. Let her
True.
rip.
Right? I mean, I got guys yes, commercial real estate is a problem. I talked to a guy in commercial real estate in Austin. He says everybody's borrowed money, what they call 5-year money. Like they've borrowed money out 5 years, and they're sitting waiting for commercial real estate to go down. I'm like, oh, Jerome Powell's going to be delighted to hear that. And ironically, housing mortgage rates have gone to a point, and the average price for a house has gotten to a point where, ironically, people don't want to sell. They're like, well, I'm not going to sell my house, and I'm not going to sell my house with a 3% mortgage to get a house with an 8% mortgage. And it's ironically in certain areas, Florida, one of them, it's like a shortage. There's no sellers. Like, what makes people go, oh my God, I have to sell? Now, again, we're not trying to depress people, but the dawn of crypto, the trick is to let legacy reprice and then let crypto reprice. Catching that over the next 60 to 90 days, gentlemen, is the financial Olympics.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Excellent macro
Bill,
coverage.
Before we let you go, I'm gonna have rapid fire
Okay.
questions. I would love if you give me an answer in less than 10 seconds per question. This would be awesome. All right. How high does Bitcoin get before a dip comes?
32.
32. All right. You are lower than us. All right. How low will Bitcoin go before the real bull market starts?
25.
25. All right. I'm with you on that. I think you and I are on the same page there. All right. Let's transfer. XRP. Can XRP in the short stint get above $1? And if so, how much higher?
Yes, $1.20.
$1.20. Okay. I have around 116 if it breaks $1. How low is XRP how low can XRP still go for the rest of this year before a real bull market?
64 cents.
64. Okay. All right. I've been saying 55, so you got a little higher than me. Let's go. Let's flip it over. Cardano. We haven't talked a lot of Cardano on this show recently because Cardano's been like a little bit it doesn't do much. How high can Cardano get before this potential collapse? And then I'll go ahead and group them together. How high does it get, and then how low does it get?
Cardano can attack 50 cents in a best case scenario.
Okay.
I think in a worst case scenario, Cardano is in a range between 25 cents and 50.
Okay. Good stuff. Let's go. Last one. Let's do Ethereum, and then we'll let you go today.
Okay. ETH probably 2,100 on the upside, and maybe a flash wick down at some point in the fall to say 1,750. Okay.
Yeah. So some of those are a little different, but those are pretty similar to what we have here. But very interesting stuff. Bill, we're going to have you on again very soon, especially if anything what we talked about today starts to pick up a little more weight and a little more weight as it goes down the hill. But Bill, you have a great day. Enjoy Texas for us. Stay in the AC. We'll talk to you again soon.
Gentlemen, thanks.
Adios.
Wow. Good stuff.
Good stuff.
Good rapid answers there. He's not that far off. There's a couple that he's a little off from us, but we're kind of in the same boat as him. But before we transfer, because T-Shirt, we're gonna do the stock market open, and we have a couple headlines here. What was your biggest takeaway from that conversation? What was the biggest thing you walked away saying, like, that's an interesting point we need to look more into?
Well, there was a lot. We discussed a lot. I try to highlight energy as much as possible. We do it every day in the market open, talking about natural gas prices and oil prices. oil is super important, guys, because as many EV cars as we can get out on the road, as many EVs that China and Elon Musk can pump out in competition, not together, those two, it's great, right? But at the end of the day, there's still going to be millions of trucks on the road, that semi trucks that are using diesel, that are using fossil fuels all across the world. America is a large consumer of oil. But there's a ton of oil consumers around the world that are very, very far away from being able to transition to EV-powered vehicles and EV-powered manufacturing. So we can't sleep on oil. Oil is not just this foregone conclusion that it's going to be subdued under $80 per barrel. If you start to see that tick up, that gets translated into inflation, right? And that is a bad case scenario. You would need shelter to come down quite a bit. You'd need the Manheim index with used cars to come down quite a bit. And, it would not be good. So far, energy has played along. We've talked about on the show almost every single day. Energy has done its part. But Bill Noble, he's made a great point, is that the black swan, right, or some kind of bad thing that would happen to cause a major repricing to the downside, I think would have to do with energy.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. And I'll say this, and then we're going to jump in and do the stock market open and our headlines. I've been saying for a while that I don't think Jerome Powell is going to actually do 2 more rate hikes, and I do think we're going to see cuts happen sooner. But Bill made a very interesting point that it might take a little shove. Whether we call it a black swan event or whether we call we saw this happening and it just finally happened and he was forced to it, I think it's a very interesting point. I still hold my prediction. I don't think we're raising 2 more points, and we will see a cut sooner than later. But he might be right. It might be at the expense of some form of a disaster, whether it's oil going up, whether it's real estate crashing again like it did in 2008, whether it's another pandemic like we had in 2020. More than likely, something is going to happen that will cause us to cut rates. But it might not be pretty and it might not be fun. Yeah. Well, with that said, we'll talk more about this in future shows. We probably even here on Wednesday, just so you guys know, tomorrow night we're going to be doing our second Twitter Spaces. We'll kind of continue on with this topic of when altcoin season. Don't know who we're going to bring on for the show just yet, but we made a case. Maybe we should ask Bill if he wants to further this conversation on Twitter tomorrow. Stay tuned for that, though. Let's go ahead, T-Shroom. It's a little later than normal, 9:48. Let's get a very quick market open, and then we're just going to go jump right into headlines to close out the show.
Let's do it. Well, it wouldn't be a lead up into an election season without North Korea being in the headlines, guys. This is breaking. U.S. soldier held in North Korea after crossing the border. It looks like this was not strategic. Looks like this may be a rogue actor, this soldier. But this is a headline that you'll want to monitor as it develops. Taking a look at energy here, guys, in the market open. Natural gas and oil ticking a little higher this morning. A little ominous considering the conversation we just had. But I'm sure all is well. And it's just a temporary movement to the upside. Taking a look here at the indexes, we got the NASDAQ, the S&P, and the Dow Jones. NASDAQ selling off a little bit here in the first few minutes here of the New York session. It's down 0.3%, while the S&P and the Dow Jane gains here. So that's all well and good, signaling a very clear movement, a rotation out of risk and into security very strongly, as the Dow Jones is up more than the NASDAQ is down. So a very clear risk, a move, de-risking move into the Dow Jones there. How long that will last before folks want to FOMO back into Microsoft, Tesla, and Google, we don't know. But we'll get down to that section and find out a little more here in a second. Taking a look at crypto, it's pretty mixed. Seeing mostly red across the screen. Compound down 7%. Seeing AGIX down almost 4%. And we can go ahead and look at XRP, a shining star, up 4% this morning. Doing well at 76 cents per coin there. Rocking out XLM Green as well. Uniswap and Optimism Chain here, both clinging on to that green status. But Ethereum, your biggies, Ethereum here and Bitcoin, both coming in red, and decisively so, with Bitcoin down 0.9% and Ethereum down 0.8%. Binance Coin also down 1.9%. So there's some flash readings. Also Solana down 5.3%. So Solana getting a pretty major reprice to the downside here on Tuesday morning. Let's go ahead and take a look down here. We'll slide past our meme coins. Pepe Coin taking a big hit back down to 0.0000015. So if you're tracking Pepe, you're looking at some losses right now. Metals, gold and silver, both coming up this morning. So this was a great day to have Bill on because all of this is translating perfectly to kind of his side of the house. Gold outpacing silver. So this could be kind of interpreted as a little bit of a recessionary movement. You are seeing rotation into the Dow Jones and rotation to gold. I would say not so fast. This is more likely a head fake as the NASDAQ reaches all-time highs. Folks, you just can't go straight up, right? I think the NASDAQ is just kind of reloading here, and the market's kind of head faking, hey, we're kind of pacing into this Fed rate decision next week. Let's get a little reprice here and fill our bags later in the week. All right, taking a look here at your mega cap tech stocks. They are selling off as the NASDAQ would have had you believe. Tesla down 0.8% here, even after announcing yesterday that their Cybertrucks are coming out. Google down 1.3%. Those Cybertrucks are finished, or at least the first non-prototype is off the assembly line. Bond yields coming down here on the later dated bond yields, and the earlier dated bond yields actually coming up. So the 6-month up 0.2, while the 10-year benchmark is down 0.8 on those yields. Taking a look at the Dixie ticking a little bit higher, up above 100. That's actually pretty interesting to observe. Back up above 100. You heard it right on the Dixie. There it is. More than likely going to have some exciting fireworks there. It's fighting right now for 100. That is the battleground of the market this morning, I would say. Taking a look here at cannabis, it's pretty mixed. Nothing to conclude there. And then your mid-cap tech stocks are fairly red across this board, mostly red there. AI and DNA able to hold on to some gains this morning. Your big banks coming in pretty strong. Bank of America earnings came out this morning, looked pretty favorable. It's rallying on the news, up 3.5%. Citibank getting in on the love, also up 2.3%. I will note, I discovered the other day that Citibank and Bank of America, neither of which have fully recovered from their 2007 highs, which is so strange. Citibank is absolutely terrible when you can look at it in that sense at the 10-year chart, while the other banks have eclipsed those 2007 highs. Taking a look at your oil producers, they're up on oil being up, as one would expect. Marathon Gas leading up 2.8. And here you go. The crypto miners are selling off here as Bitcoin price uncertainty gains. And let's see who's the biggest loser is going to be BitF. So that is Bitfarms. Yeah. So it's a smaller cap, so it's going to have a little bit more volatility. That's going to be our market open here, guys. Definitely some rotation out of risk assets into some security as we head further into the week. And markets are looking like they're anticipating next week, and some big economic events that are going to happen on the central bank side. So that is going to be our market open.
Yeah, real quick before we jump in, we have just a couple minutes left here for headlines. Guys, we have 130 people in chat right now. Thank you so much. Go ahead and smash that like button. Though I've looked at it. We've had over T-Shroom, just over 530 people have joined the stream at one point or another, which is a pretty high number to join the stream while we're live. So we need to get those likes up. We're sitting at 96. I think right now I'm going to say there are 70 people in chat right now who have not smashed that like button. Let's at least get it up to 130 here in the next 5 minutes as we're going through some headlines. Not a whole lot. Another sign that we're not in the bull market, by the way, guys, is that there's not a whole lot of news. T-Shroom and I were talking about this pre-show. Those of you who were here during the bull market, you guys remember there was not a single day there in December of 2020, January, February, March, April of 2021, that there wasn't some big story of hopium, some big story of a development on an altcoin. There was never a dull day in the news. That's one of the signs of a bull market. One of the signs that you're not in a bull market is you go through these really exciting phases and then you lull, because there's not any money for altcoins to be developing a whole lot right now. So there's no massive news going out about it. Make sure you guys stay tuned and ready, because we'll still be discussing things to prepare you for the bull market. But just want to throw that out there for you guys. Another piece of evidence. This most likely is not the bull market. But T-Shroom, of the little bit of news that is out there, what are we seeing in the headlines today?
Oh man, guys, it literally is not that much news. So we're gonna get through it. We're gonna get through it quick. The SEC chair Gary Gensler, maybe you've heard of him, said he's disappointed in the Ripple court ruling on retail investors' side. We're gonna come back to this story. We're gonna get Tim's take, but we'll also read another headline, which is Barclays Bank, a very large bank in the EU, joins Wall Street analysts calling XRP ruling positive for Coinbase. We do have a quote on this one. They said we view a representative. I'm not sure exactly who said this. Yeah, it's a representative of Barclays Bank, probably somebody who wears a suit a lot. We view the ruling as incrementally positive for Coinbase, given the interpretation that in some cases a token may not be a security. The bank's analyst wrote, keeping coins rating at underweight with a $70 price target. This may also provide incremental clarity for future token issuances. So it absolutely does. $70 price target. Let's go ahead and go to the charts really quick. I want to do that and see where that would put Coinbase considering where it is now. So it's at $100 now. So they think a fair market value is $70. So back down here. So that's interesting. That doesn't make a ton of sense considering that this seems to be a bullish article. But there you go. All right, circling back with the SEC, Gary Gensler headline saying he's disappointed. Tim, does this headline tell the full story?
Not really. For those who might have watched the video, he actually is talking about all the wins that the SEC had against Ripple. Because here's the reality: the lawsuit was not just the SEC versus Ripple; it was the SEC versus Ripple and XRP. They lost to XRP, but they kind of won against Ripple. That especially that fair value or the fair notice allotment or whatever it's called, that was a big win for the SEC. So if you watch the video, it's actually him talking about how excited he is, how happy he is, because I don't think he thought he was going to even win that detail, but he was happy. And then in a very, about 15 seconds, he says, yeah, we're a little disappointed with the decision about XRP. We're still weighing our options. And he called it about that opinion. And which makes me think like T-Shrimp, I don't know if Dirty Gary knows how courts work. When judges say things, those are not opinions. That's a ruling, Gary. That means that's how you're supposed to operate, Gary. So don't call it an opinion. What you do, Gary, is an opinion. What a judge does behind a podium with a gavel is called a ruling. It's a little bit of education there for Gary Gensler. But yeah, it's not really him. He really wasn't that upset. It was more like kind of like a, hey, everything went really well. Didn't really like what happened to XRP. We're going to assess what we're going to do with that because we don't like the ruling. We don't like that opinion. But honestly, T-Shrimp, there's nothing he can do about it. It's not like that judge was overwhelmingly anti-SEC and pro-crypto. I mean, clearly she went in favor of the SEC over Ripple. He's going to have to literally find a judge he can pay off to get an appeal that would actually work to counteract what happened with XRP. I don't see it happening, guys. I think XRP won. They're in the clear. Ripple, on the other hand, they still have a long road ahead of them because they're going to appeal or there's going to be some sort of settlement because Ripple's not happy with how that lawsuit ended. XRP, though, good for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I wanted to point out really, really quickly because that Coinbase article was kind of confusing. What I think that the analysts over at Barclays are pointing out is that $70 is a great place to buy. That's a buy price target. Later in the article, there's another analyst who says 120 is another good place to buy. So these are all over the place. So I would just say pay no attention to kind of what these analysts are saying in terms of entry prices. Guys, when you're looking at the charts, you're wanting to enter sub 85. I have an alert here. For sub 85 is where I want this price to come back down to. Whether or not it ever sees 85 again, I'm not sure. We could have some white swans in crypto that could push Coinbase quite a bit up further. But I also did tweet out, and I don't think we'll have time to go into this in detail, but I did tweet out, I'm keeping some cash on the sidelines for mega cap tech names to fill gaps to the downside. I won't show you on the charts, but take my word for it. There are gaps on Tesla, Meta, Google, Microsoft as well. In these gaps, I believe
hold on. Did you say Microsoft?
Yes, and I love it. I think I'm going to always say Microsoft now. But ultimately, guys, I think that
Macro Hard. That's what it is. Macro Hard. New company idea. Me and T-Shroom, we're going to start it.
That's right. Macro Hard, and we're going to make software for enterprise businesses, and we're going to put Microsoft out of business. We're also going to buy the biggest up and coming AI companies. All right. So ultimately, though, guys, I think that next week is going to be there'll be some repricing potentially to the downside as these mega cap names go down and fill the gap. So that could potentially be kind of the reason why it kind of the gravity that brings Bitcoin down with it. To go back down and see maybe 27K. I don't see it going back down to 25 just based off of this. But then it's going to get rubber banded right back up when no matter what the Fed does, I think they probably will go ahead and hike 25. That's what I think. That's my hunch. Or they will pause, which is slightly less likely. But in any case, I think Jerome's going to come out with a pretty dovish speech, and that's gonna let the Nasdaq maybe even go touch all-time highs. Not the Nasdaq, the S&P go touch all-time highs here pretty soon.
Boom. Well, guys, it is after 10 o'clock, which means we are going to go. I did want to say there was a super chat a long time ago from Elo Brown telling Army Piper not to yell at the squeen. So thank you for the super chat there. Shout out to Army Piper, of course. Guys, big day today, this afternoon. This will be our first ever. We're going to be on YouTube, but we're going to be private. So you got to be a silver member or higher to join the bro time today at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It will be here on YouTube. So make sure you guys come in, interact, ask us questions. You guys get to hear more about us behind the scenes. You can ask us crypto questions, stock questions, trading questions. That will be at 3, go to about 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And then tonight, again, now that Piper is just taking a step back, we can't do 5 nights a week of the tactical trades, but T-Shroom and I will be doing tactical trades on Tuesday. So Tuesday tactical trades at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is for everybody here on YouTube. So make sure you come back and you are here for that. With that said, though, that's all we have for you guys in today's show. On your way out, make sure you hit that like button. And if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing to the channel for more amazing content just like what we had today. Love you guys. See you tonight. Adios.
Trying to make paper, turn that batter to cake. Money like Lego, connect the dots that bank. We are investing bros. We are investing bros. Army Pipe, lethal on trade. Entries and exits, worthy of praise. Tim, the professor of the TA. Shout it out loud on the PA. T-Shroom's news got the word. Doing better than what he deserves. Beamer, leave no evidence. Soon fly coop with his dividend. Trying to make paper, turn that batter to cake. Money like Lego, connect the dots that bank. We are investing bros. We are investing bros.
Investing bros. Investing bros. Investing bros. Investing bros. Investing bros.